Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In a shocking revelation that has sent ripples through global diplomacy, Iran's former foreign minister Mohammad Zarif has broken his silence, suggesting that Russia may have deliberately sabotaged the revival of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, the very agreement that once stood as a pillar of Middle Eastern stability. Tonight, we dive deep into the claims, motives, and geopolitical consequences of Zarif's statement, and ask the burning question: did Moscow really undermine Tehran's path to peace for its own benefit? Back in 2015, after years of grueling negotiations between Iran and six world powers, the United States, Russia, China, France, the United Kingdom, and Germany, the JCPOA was born. Under the deal, Iran agreed to limit its uranium enrichment and allow international inspectors access to its nuclear facilities. In exchange for relief from crippling economic sanctions, the agreement gave Iran a chance to rebuild its economy and reintegrate into the global system. It also reassured the West that Tehran's nuclear ambitions were peaceful. For a few years, it seemed to work. Iran complied with its obligations. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, confirmed its adherence, and optimism cautiously returned to the region. But then, in 2018, former U.S. President Donald Trump pulled the United States out of the deal, calling it the worst agreement ever negotiated. That single move triggered a chain reaction. Sanctions returned. Iran resumed uranium enrichment. The region once again edged closer to confrontation. And in the shadows, other global powers began to reposition themselves, especially Russia. Fast forward to 2021, when President Joe Biden entered the White House promising to restore diplomacy. Indirect talks began in Vienna between U.S. and Iranian negotiators, mediated by European diplomats, with Russia playing a crucial role. As one of the original signatories of the JCPOA, Moscow served as a mediator, often shuttling messages between Tehran and Washington. But according to Zarif's latest comments, Russia's true intentions were not to help, but to hinder. In a newly surfaced interview, Zarif suggests that Moscow feared a revived nuclear deal would strengthen Iran's economy and allow it to improve relations with the West, something Russia did not want. Why? Because a prosperous, globally integrated Iran would become a competitor to Russia's energy exports and reduce Moscow's leverage in the region. To put it simply, Russia allegedly preferred Iran isolated, reliant on Russian support, rather than independent and open to the world. In the leaked conversation, Zarif reportedly stated that Russia did not want the JCPOA to succeed, claiming Moscow worked behind the scenes to prevent the deal's restoration during the Vienna talks. He hinted that Russian diplomats subtly discouraged compromise and even provided strategic advice to hardliners in Tehran who opposed rapprochement with the United States. While Zarif stopped short of accusing the Kremlin directly, his message was unmistakable. Russia benefits from Iran remaining in conflict with the West. He emphasized that every time there was progress in the negotiations, something would happen: a statement, a delay, or a misstep that would push the talks back. And according to his analysis, these disruptions weren't coincidences. To understand why Russia might have done this, we must look at the bigger picture. For Moscow, Iran serves as a strategic partner and a useful counterweight to U.S. influence in the Middle East, but that partnership depends on Iran's isolation. If Iran were to normalize relations with Washington and Europe, it could attract foreign investment, modernize its energy sector, and emerge as a powerful, independent regional player. That scenario threatens Russia's geopolitical calculus. Moreover, Russia's own energy exports, especially natural gas and oil, would face new competition from an empowered Iran entering global markets. So, keeping Iran under sanctions conveniently preserves Moscow's dominance in the energy market, while ensuring Tehran remains reliant on Russian trade and diplomacy. This dynamic became even more important after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. As Moscow faced Western sanctions, it leaned heavily on Iran for military drones, trade, and political support. In other words, a sanctioned Iran became useful to a sanctioned Russia. A revived nuclear deal that reopens Iran to the world would break that dependency, something the Kremlin may have wanted to avoid at all costs. Inside Iran, Zarif's comments have ignited a firestorm of debate. Supporters of reform and diplomacy say his words confirm what they've long suspected, that foreign powers, not just internal politics, have obstructed Iran's progress. Hardliners, however, have dismissed his claims as Western propaganda. They accuse Zarif of undermining national unity and spreading misinformation. Yet, ordinary Iranians suffering from inflation, unemployment, and global isolation are asking tough questions. Was their future sacrificed in a geopolitical game between Moscow and Tehran's elite? Did their leaders knowingly allow Russia to use Iran as a pawn in a larger confrontation with the West? These questions are now circulating across Persian social media, igniting discussions that the government may find difficult to control. From Washington to Brussels, Zarif's revelation has been met with mixed reactions. Western officials privately acknowledge that Russia had little incentive to see a successful U.S.-Iran reconciliation. During the Vienna talks, many diplomats noticed that Russian negotiators were often slower and less constructive than their European counterparts. Still, most experts stop short of calling it deliberate sabotage. They argue that while Russia may have acted in its own interests, it's difficult to prove active interference. Nevertheless, Zarif's statements are being viewed as a rare glimpse into the internal tensions that shaped the failed negotiations. For policymakers, it's a reminder that diplomacy in the Middle East is rarely a two-layer game. It's a complex chessboard with multiple actors pursuing competing goals. In response to media inquiries, the Russian Foreign Ministry has strongly denied Zarif's allegations, calling them baseless. In an attempt to rewrite history, Moscow insists it always supported the JCPOA and blames the U.S. for its collapse. Interestingly, the Iranian government itself has remained largely silent. No official statement has confirmed or denied Zarif's claims. That silence speaks volumes. It may reflect the delicate balance Tehran is trying to maintain, unwilling to anger Moscow, especially as both nations face Western sanctions and cooperate militarily in Syria and trade under the radar. Tehran's current leaders may also fear that admitting Russian interference would expose them as weak or complicit in undermining national interests. If Zarif's claims are even partially true, the consequences could be enormous. First, they reveal a fracture within Iran's political elite, where reformists accuse hardliners of sacrificing the nation's long-term prosperity for short-term alliances. Second, they show how global rivalries now shape Middle Eastern diplomacy, with Russia, China, and the U.S. all vying for influence over Iran's choices. Third, it underscores the tragedy of lost opportunities. Had the JCPOA been revived, Iran might have attracted billions in foreign investment, improved its living standards, and stabilized the region. Instead, the deal lies in ruins. Iran's nuclear program has expanded, and tensions with Israel and the U.S. continue to rise, all while Russia deepens its grip on Tehran. With the war in Gaza, escalating tensions in Lebanon, and the ongoing Ukraine conflict, Iran's nuclear question has once again become a global flashpoint. The IAEA reports that Iran now enriches uranium to near weapons grade levels, a step that worries both Washington and Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, Russia continues to strengthen military ties with Iran, exchanging drones for advanced jets and missiles. In this environment, reviving the JCPOA seems almost impossible. But Zarif's words could reignite debate inside Iran about the direction of its foreign policy, whether to remain tethered to Russia and China, or to seek a new opening with the West. For now, though, the power dynamics in Tehran appear firmly under the control of hardliners, those who prefer confrontation over compromise. Mohammad Zarif's revelation isn't just about one deal or one betrayal. It's a mirror reflecting Iran's deepest dilemma, torn between East and West, between sovereignty and survival. If Russia truly sabotaged Iran's path to peace, it did so not with bombs or sanctions, but with subtle diplomacy, ensuring that Iran's isolation served Moscow's interests. But history shows that no nation can remain a pawn forever. Eventually, every country must decide its own destiny, whether through alliance or independence. And as global tensions rise, the question remains, will Iran continue walking in Russia's shadow, or will it step into its own light once again? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.